Hey everyone, it's Mike Hambright with Flipner.com. Welcome back for another expert interview show where I interview awesome guests from across the real estate investing industry and across the country and even around the world sometimes to help you learn and inspire you. For today's show, I'm joined by Mike Fitzgerald. He's a Maryland-based real estate investor. He also operates in Pennsylvania and West Virginia, sometimes DC. You're gonna hear a theme here that's gonna be consistent. He goes where the opportunity is. So Mike's done over 500 deals. He's the founder of Gideon Properties. And he's also the owner of his local RIA and does a number of things that are pretty exciting there. But like I said, Mike has purchased really hundreds of single-family homes, but is about to do a big condo conversion project. He's done some really cool commercial rehab projects. And there are generally two camps in real estate investing. Those that think that you should stay focused and just do one thing and try to do it really well. And the other side is to monetize everything you can, find any way to turn leads into money, and to go after, really to kind of be in the opportunity business and go after it. And so that is the camp that Mike is in, is the opportunity business, go where the opportunity is at. And that's what we're going to talk about today. His style, and if this resonates with you, is how to take advantage of any opportunities that come your way and make sense in real estate investing. And he's going to share some advice on, how to not get too distracted and things like that to allow you to be successful with that strategy. Before we get started with Mike, though, let's take a moment to recognize our featured sponsors. B2R Finance makes loans tailored specifically for rental investors. They can help you unlock equity from your existing properties so you can get cash out to grow your rental portfolio. That's huge. It opens up lots of opportunities previously not available to rental investors. Need a loan? Call 888-472-0419 or visit flipnerd.com/B2R today. VirtualStaffNow.com is your source for done-for-you virtual assistants that specialize in helping you run your real estate investing business. They recruit, manage, and train VAs for you so you can focus on growing your business. If you're in growth mode, build your team fast at a cost you can't beat by visiting VirtualStaffNow.com. AceBusinessFunding.com can help you get up to $150,000 in revolving credit lines to fund your business with rates as low as 0% for the first 12 to 18 months. Use the funds for startup costs, marketing, inventory, or heck, even buying houses and funding your rehabs. If they can't get you funding, you don't pay a dime. Get funds for your business today at acebusinessfunding.com. Please note, the views and opinions expressed by the individuals in this program do not necessarily reflect those of FlipNerd.com or any of its partners, advertisers, or affiliates. Please consult professionals before making any investment or tax decisions, as real estate investing can be risky. Hey, Mike, welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you doing, Mike?
Good to see you. So, this is going to be an interesting topic because people tend to fall in one of two camps. Either they're like, like I said, they really get focused on what they do and they do it well. And even inside of just single family, there's people that really just focus just on wholesaling, or some are just on rentals, some are just on rehabbing everything they get. I'm not as opportunistic probably as you in the real estate space, but people have asked me in the past things like, well, do you buy, what kind of price point of houses do you buy? And I've used this kind of cheesy line that says, hey, if the numbers work, I'll buy a teepee. And there's some truth in that. I mean, we've gone after some really low-end deals, some high-end deals, and everything in between. But I've tended to stay focused on the single-family realm. But I know that you're going after all sorts of stuff that will help bring money your way, and you've done a great job of doing it. So it's interesting. It's going to be an interesting conversation today.
Well, I try to stay focused, but at the same time, if an opportunity presents itself and it's in my focus space, and I consider, any piece of real estate at the right numbers in my space, I'm going to 9 times out of 10 go for it, as long as it makes sense. For an example, last year I had a chance to buy a 36,000 square foot office building. And, I started out flipping houses in a 1-bedroom apartment. This building had a $1.75 million mortgage on it. I was able to get it for $650,000. Put about $1 million in it. Now it's worth about $2.3 million and bringing in $24,000 a month. Yeah. So even though our direct focus is picking up houses and making it make sense, and as far as going where the opportunity goes, if I have a chance to do some what I call virtual wholesaling in Indianapolis, which I just made money doing that today, or if I see an opportunity, I definitely try to get me and my lead acquisitions folks on it. Now, at the same time, there's a fine line. I do consider myself an age-deified entrepreneur, but I also nowadays try to dial it into just real estate. Where before, if I saw an opportunity, like the artwork behind me that I bought off someone's wall, I'd go in and buy it. Now I try to just say, look, my money's in real estate. That's where I'm at. I've actually done over 1,000 real estate transactions, and there were 500 individual deals.
Yeah, yeah. Well, hey, Mike, before we kind of get too far into this, for those that don't know you, why don't you share your background and kind of how you got to where you are today, how you got started as well?
I was in a one-bedroom apartment, and I called a rent-to-own ad in the newspaper, and the fellow on the other line, Dave, said, you sound like you'd make a better real estate investor than renting to own my house, and told me about the real estate clubs in D.C. and Baltimore. So in high school, you won't believe this, but I was voted most gullible in the senior yearbook. So I credit that to my ability to believe in things. And I went to these real estate associations. They said, you can buy property, no money down. So I went out and I bought property, no money down. My first deal was a division of proceeds where I made a deal with the homeowner for X. I was allowed to make everything over X. And really 12 of my first 15 deals were no money down deals. Then from there, I went to raise money. And one of the guys I went to raise money from was a really smart guy. He had grown a company up to about 400 people. And they were in the music distribution business. Actually, they were the biggest in the country at one point for Christmas music. He sold his company in '89, two Jewish guys. Kind of an interesting story. Did very well with it. He said, "Look, Mike, you need an office. You need an office manager. You need a bookkeeper." And from there, he helped me get my first office. And I've had a lot of great mentors along the way. But I've kind of been to the school of hard knocks, and I've been fortunate enough to take all my own learning lessons on my own and move forward. And we're doing great today. We're doing about 100 deals a year, and I'm really excited about the future of our organization.
That's awesome. So why don't you talk about, I know you have kind of a very entrepreneurial background. We've talked about some of that before in terms of getting started. And I think, what's interesting is I think there's a lot of real estate investors. Not everybody would fall into this camp, but I think a lot of real estate investors, first and foremost, are entrepreneurs. And real estate just happens to be what they do. And that's why the people that are kind of in that mindset are the ones that would tend to say, wow, we've got a multifamily opportunity. We've got an opportunity to do this in single family. There's this interesting, mobile home park opportunity or kind of things that come your way. How would you say that, maybe kind of dispel some myths and talk about, not that strategy is right for everybody, kind of talk about the difference between staying super focused and just doing one thing and trying to do it well, and being open-minded to look for opportunities. Just kind of maybe compare those two.
I think absolutely it's good to do one thing well, but if you're in the real estate investing space and you're doing buying, selling, rehabbing, assignments, creative deals, the real estate investing space, you really don't want to limit yourself. We have 200 rental units and we buy and sell a lot of houses. If a good deal comes along and you can make money with it, that's what I consider myself. I consider myself, this is my space. And even though I don't stay on one focus, I don't stay on wholesaling, I don't stay on key, I don't stay just on rehabbing. I do have consistency with rehabbing. We're consistently doing 60 a year, but I do like to, I am looking to increase my wholesale business. And if I get, last year the opportunity presented itself, I found a 40 unit complex for 1.4 million. In a very, very strong area, and I went for it. We invested money in it, and the truth is, if a deal comes along, real estate's all numbers. And if the numbers make sense, we're going to go for it. Now, if it's not something completely in our space, the numbers have to make a little more sense and have to be a little deeper. But we'll do what makes sense.
Sure. And talk a little bit about maybe distance as well. So I know you're in an area where you're a little ways out from DC. And you operate in a few different states, but just kind of talk about some if I look back at hundreds of investors I know, some of them, there's this belief of find this area, get to know it really well, and just operate there. That's kind of your farm area. And then, you and I both know a lot of people that are more virtual and they're just like kind of the way we've been talking about things. They'll go anywhere where there's a deal at. They do some stuff virtually or whatever. But just talk about the
I think,
willingness to kind of go where the deal's at.
I think if you're doing stuff virtual and you're going where the deal's at, you should still dial in that market and not try to do too much at once, because you can go out there and you can go to 5 different markets and go completely virtual. The problem is if you don't perfect one market as you go, it's going to be a mess and you're probably going to lose money and you're not going to optimize.
Yeah.
So even though, we do a lot of stuff in the space, and I consider myself, kind of an ADDFI guy. Hey, let's go ride a bike. Look at that squirrel. What are you doing today, Mike? So, that's how I am. We really, we look at the opportunity, we look at the different markets, but, as I grow, it's been 11 years, but old me on year 1 and year 2, I would say, okay, I can do virtual wholesaling. Great. Give me 20 markets. I'm going to do each one and send out mail and create a big mess. Now we will do everything, and we will go a direction of doing, 5, 6, 10, 20 different things. But we still try to, as we go along, if we're doing the same thing, instead of doing it multiple times, we'll try to perfect it as we go in each market. Now, I'm right on the tri-state, so I'm within 20 miles of Pennsylvania and West Virginia, so it makes sense for me to do business in those 3 states.
Yeah.
I worked with another investor out of Washington State. We did really well together, so I have a company out of Washington State. I'm doing a little bit of business there. In DC, I like that there's $100 million single-family home neighborhoods. I love it. The profits are much bigger, so I do one at a time in DC. But we're trying a little more to be organized. You see the board behind you. The board in the corner with the red and green writing. Those are actually all renovations we have going on right now. I know you probably can't clearly see it, but there should be 33 of them. And then the other board with the tape is what settlements we have. We have 8 settlements coming up. So if we go out there, especially, and we learned this from probably when the market dipped, your rehab profits slow down, your wholesale profits slow down. So really the way to make it through a bad market when you have overhead and you have a strong business is to sit there and say, look, I'm going to take opportunities that present itself. And when I see those opportunities, I'm going to do them, and I'm going to try to come up with action plans for them. That way I can keep somewhat of an organization as I'm doing, 20 different things.
Right. Well, how do you, I know we've talked about this a little bit beforehand. Some of it comes down to the structure of your team and people that you can rely on to kind of, 1, help keep you focused, or 2, settle some of that distraction because you've simply outsourced that to somebody else that can help. Can you talk a little bit about that and maybe the structure of your team?
A team is absolutely important, and I learned a lot from our mastermind in CG that, if you have the wrong team, you can only get so far. It's very important to surround yourself with very good people and have the right people. And I think any real estate business on this level, you can't do all the acquisitions yourself. You can't run all the sales yourself, because then something else is going to falter. So one thing I learned from CG is before, where I was doing 70, 80, 90 deals a year myself, now we have an acquisitions guy, and we're looking to hire other people under him. I've also realized, the difference between a bookkeeper and an accountant may be 20, 30 grand. But if you're an accountant, you're going to be a lot more on point with your numbers, and you're probably going to save money when you get your tax returns done with the accountant that does your tax returns.
Right.
So we went to full-blown accountant. With the rentals, and I think in real estate, you have so many random things that can come up. So my big thing has been to create schedules with what I call flex time, where, look, this is your schedule, guys, with the rentals, and you have all this stuff to do. We'll do it in your flex time. That way everybody has flex time at different times, so they have time for things that come up. So we have 3 people on our rentals. Then we have a receptionist who's been trained to take a lot of the calls with scripts, and that goes really well. We have a project manager, but we used to do everything ourselves. Can you imagine that? We used to GC, CD jobs ourselves. Yeah. I mean, it'll waste a lot of profit. So now we give everything to GCs, plan it out in a system called Buildium. We get it down to a T. Usually the GCs negotiate us within 10% of what we come up with, and then we get the jobs done on point, and everything is not on all us. So we've worked more on outsourcing, getting in good people, good systems, and good programs to make everything operate as smoothly as it possibly can.
Yeah. And why don't you talk about kind of and not to say that I'm sure you've learned a lot over time, but for people that are out there that are maybe newer and kind of getting started, as to kind of, let's just assume that a lot of newer people may not be able to afford a team yet in terms of they may not be able to justify all that kind of headcount. How do people that
There's a
are,
ton of things out there. There's virtual assistants.
yeah,
Um, there's virtual assistants. You can go on Fiverr and you can bid different things out. Like we wanted to do a mailing list in an Excel spreadsheet. We had probably 1,000 names to put in. We went to Fiverr and bid it. Someone bid it at like $15. It would have took one of my people 8 hours. There's also different answering services that charge you by the minute because when the seller calls, you almost always want a live person to pick up the phone. There's a ton of great assistants that speak English and great virtual assistants, and you can really sub a lot of that out and really run the system without having everybody in the office. Like right now, we have a full-time person doing work for us in the Philippines.
yeah,
And I mean, and it works well. So, maybe people don't have the money to get people directly on payroll yet, but you can still go to Fiverr and make sure someone's doing your books. Most importantly, if you want to grow in real estate, you can't do everything yourself. And when
right,
you are ready to get people, you have to train them right, come up with the right operating procedures to make sure that they have the tools and they're equipped to get the things done for you. One thing that I used to be over the last couple of years and I'm really working on is a hub and spoke business model. I really don't want that. So and I know I'm going to a whole new level, but it's getting the right people around you. And if someone doesn't have the money to bring people into an office, there's a ton of virtual one-time assistants out there on websites like Fiverr where they can get, the random things done. And, being systematic is what it's all about. So getting the right computer programs and the right things so they can really leverage their time to the fullest.
yeah. Hey, kind of clarify what you just said about a hub and spoke model, which is, I assume you mean that you were kind of set up where everything had to come back through you ultimately. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, yeah, and we're still getting beyond that, but that's been extremely tough. It's really hard to run a business when everything runs through you and you have to double check on everything. So
Right.
as we've been switching out staff, that's really what we've been working on.
Yeah. I think that's what a lot of real estate, I struggle with that as well, is how to not have to be in the middle of everything. And it's not that I necessarily think that I'm better at everything. It's just when my money's on the line, all those issues that I tend to like feel like I need to like have my stamp of approval or something on it, which definitely can weigh you down if you're trying to grow for sure.
Exactly. And if you don't have the right people and then, things don't get done or they don't get done properly or something gets missed and you constantly have in your head, hey, I've got to be on this or it's not going to get done right, but really that's the wrong answer. The right answer is sitting down for 10, 20 minutes an hour, whatever it may be, coming up with an operating plan, coming up with procedures. That way people know when this happens, you do this. When this comes up, you do this. And really making sure you have a business. Because with a hub and spoke business, as yourself, you can get here. You can get a one dot. As a hub and spoke business model, you can get a little higher. But the only way to really achieve greatness in real estate is to have a business model where things naturally get done as they come in, like any business or any corporation.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you shared this story with me before. I'd love for you to share this. Is such an awesome story, but I know that you had this experience where you had actually bought back your parents' house that had been foreclosed on in the past. Can you share that with us? I mean, that's such a incredible story.
Federal apartment. Now I own 200 apartments. And 6 years ago, I had an opportunity to buy my parents' home. They had lost it when I was younger, and I fixed it up. I did amazing rehab to it, made it beautiful, and I actually moved my parents back into the home. I did that when I was 24 or 25 years old. Now I'm 31.
That's incredible. So how did they, elaborate on that a little bit. Talk about how did your parent, did they know you were doing it, or how did they feel when that happened?
They didn't know exactly. They didn't know what I was doing with it, but of course, it brought tears of joy, and it's made them really, really happy. And, I'm happy to see them in there. I'm glad I've been blessed enough to be decent enough at real estate and good enough at real estate where I can do things like that for my family. That's always been really important to me.
Yeah, that's a great thing about real estate. You can really, if you're doing well, which a lot of people that, are doing the type of volume you do tend to do well, you can definitely make a difference, whether it's your family or others and stuff like that. So,
right.
Yeah. Well, and why don't you share some stories about this major office building or the commercial building that you rehabbed, because that's a really interesting experience as well, and kind of talk about some challenges maybe of going from primarily being a single family guy into doing a large development like that.
Well, I didn't even know how I was going to buy it when it all went down at the time. this was a couple of years ago. I was able to raise money relatively quickly. I took it out with an investor, and I refinanced it with a bank. But I had a chance, somebody approached me, buying a 36,000 square foot office building, and I will talk about earlier in my career, I did the same thing. Most guys, flipping houses, even 30, 40 a year, wouldn't really, would probably be a challenge they wouldn't take. It was 36,000 square feet. It was almost completely empty, had homeless people breaking into it. And now today, the building is 96% full, only one space left. A restaurant moved in there, a bank moved in there, and it's probably the nicest boutique office building in Hagerstown. The folks had a $1.75 million mortgage on it. The building was falling apart, had 183 plumbing leaks, roof leaks down to the first floor. And I was able to short sale that mortgage for $650,000. We put about $1 million into it, and the building is it's great. Like, we got a lot of great tenants, a lot of great stuff happening in downtown Hagerstown. Earlier in my career, when I was in a one-bedroom apartment, a farmer called me up and wanted $650,000 for his farm. Most people, when they just start out, they've done like 8 or 9 deals and they're all creative. They'd be like, well, this isn't the deal for me. I decided it was a deal for me. I made a deal with the farmer for $575,000 where I could subdivide the farm, subdivide some building lots off of it, sell any or all of the building lots towards my purchase price, and the remaining money would move into a mortgage that the farmer held for me at 5%, and I could allocate the money however I wanted. I thought it would take me 4 or 5 months. I started it out. I had maybe $60,000 in the bank. I got it done 15 months later. After I had to take the county to appeals for denying me for no reason, I won. 15 to 17 months later, I had about $80,000 in it, but in the end, it netted me about $1.2 million in equity. Now, that taught me one big lesson: never be scared of a deal. My second lesson is when I decided to hold it for a couple of years, because I thought real estate would just keep going up, and my equity ended up getting cut in half. But it did for a lot of my initial learning lessons in real estate. I like to say, I never went to college. I barely passed high school. Part of the problem was I'd sit there in class, it'd be 1 o'clock. So from 1 o'clock to 1:05, I'd say in my head 1,000 times, I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to pay attention. Then the bell would ring at 2 o'clock. I couldn't remember when I started daydreaming. But I believe in real estate. I believe in, you can start out with nothing and be great in real estate. The farm deal, I actually lived in the home for 10 years. I just recently moved about a month ago. I have over 150 animals still. The guy who moved in is taking care of them: chickens, ducks. I ended up, what happened was there was like 10 chickens when I moved in. So when they started passing away from old age, I heard about the livestock auction. And wouldn't you know what happened, Mike? I couldn't stay focused. Every animal that went through with had a deal for 2 months I bought. I ended up building 500 feet of fences and having a gentleman's farm. I had boys in, all 7 Washington County, Maryland Boys and Girls Clubs on 2 different years.
That's funny. So, Mike, we have just a couple minutes left here. Maybe you can, I definitely can see how, you're excited by opportunities that come up. I think there's a lot of people like that want to be diverse and do a number of different things to keep them interested and make it exciting. Can you maybe share some lessons on people that kind of know that they're like that, they've got a little bit of ADD and they want to do a number of things, how they can make sure that they're successful in that space and not get so distracted that their business, fails or doesn't do well?
2 words: slow down. No, just kidding. I've learned a lot of lessons, and my ability to create deals has allowed me to pay for those lessons. And that's why I've said before, I feel like I paid more for my education if I went to 3 top colleges. But one thing I could have done better is I could have written things down. Even though I go a lot of directions, I could have come up with a plan and said, here's what I'm going to do. And as new things came in, I could have added it and see where they fit in. Me, I tend to do a ton of stuff, everything that comes at me. And it's definitely caused a lot of, in my earlier years, it definitely caused, a few, some education. It cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Nowadays, as things come in, we analyze them, we sit down, we say, okay, does this fit? And if it's something new, we look at, do we have the time to do it? Can we do it well? And can we make money with it and not have something else falter? So, my best advice can be for me, what I consider the ADD-ified entrepreneur: look, You can make money doing a million different things in life. Real estate's one of the best things you can do. Over 90% of the millionaires in America had some form of their wealth created through real estate. You're going to do very well. Even though you want to do everything, look at everything, make sure you have the time to do it, make sure you have the capability to do it, and do it. The more you can do, the better, obviously, in my mind, but make sure something else isn't going to falter. Take the time to write it down. As we were looking at a virtual wholesaling market earlier, we said, okay, let's come up with an SOP, a standard operating procedure. Here's what we're going to do. Here's where the calls are going to go. Here's who's going to return them. Take the time to write it down. Don't try to do everything. Don't try to wing everything. I've done 500 real estate deals with 3/4 of them winging it as I went. And if I would not necessarily slow down, but if I would have wrote things down, thought through things a little bit earlier in my career, we'd have another $1 million or $2 million in the bank. So that can be my best advice.
Yep. Awesome, Mike. Well, hey, before we wrap it up here, why don't you take a minute and just tell people if they want to learn more about you, your business, your real estate club, any of those things, where they would go to find more on those things.
Okay, check out Hub City RIA. That's HUB City RIA, which stands for Real Estate Investors Association, REIA.com. They can check out Gideon Properties on Facebook. That's Gideon Properties, GIDEON, on Facebook. Or my personal page, Michael T. Fitzgerald. They'll see I'm a real estate investor from Maryland. Now, we're also coming up with a page. I've been doing some of these podcasts lately, and I've had a lot of front page newspaper articles. So we're actually coming up with a drop page that's not announced yet. That'll help people when I do these interviews. And if they go to our Facebook page, Gideon Properties, they'll see when that's actually announced. They can also check out on my Facebook page here recently, and you're going to love this, Mike. It's on my Gideon page at my Facebook. The youngest real estate investor ever, my 2-year-old son, negotiating a real estate contract.
Awesome. Well, hey, we'll add links for those things down below the video here for those that want to check it out. And Mike, great to see you. And I know you're about to have a birthday, so happy early birthday. And I will actually be seeing you real soon.
So I'm a single dad, so I take my son to work with me, like usually one day a week.
Yeah, awesome.
When I'm able to, when it makes sense. And actually, I'm taking him to negotiate with sellers, and it's hilarious. I'll sit there talking to a seller, and he says, "Sell my daddy your house, please. My daddy really wants to buy it." And it's so cool. And I don't meet so many of the sellers. We got an acquisition guy, but my son really likes it, so I've been taking him around. I think he's going to start putting homes under contract at 5.
If you need some extra leverage, you take him, huh?
Yeah.
He's your muscle.
That's right. He's my muscle.
Mike. Well, hey, thanks for joining us. Thanks for sharing your story. And I look forward to seeing you soon, okay? Are you a member of FlipNerd.com, the most robust real estate investing platform in existence, where you can find off-market wholesale deals and great vendors literally in your market? You can get access to advice from experts and learn about local clubs and events right in your backyard. If not, please visit FlipNerd.com and register for a free account. You can register in less than a minute. It's pretty much the coolest site that's ever existed in the real estate investing industry, so get on over to FlipNerd.com.